Alrighty, so if you guys didn't know, Tekken 8 had a playtest out in Korea. And so Knee, JDCR, Lowhigh, etc., they all got their hands on the game. Now, this is a translation of Knee stream talking about his experience there. So I just wanted to go through it so we can get some information about it and see what he thinks about Tekken 8. And then, obviously, I've played the game a lot more. I think this was Knee's first time, so it'll be interesting to kind of see what he thinks about it on this first experience, right? So he says it was fun. It's a test alpha version, so he didn't take anything too seriously. That's what you should do. Cool aspects to it, but the heat animation effects were a bit too much. I think a lot of people agree with that. The screws were also too much visually, and the game in general just has too much going on. The screen is too busy and flashy, especially prominent with Lars. This is true. Certain characters, there are certain things that are just too prominently visually explosive. This part's the interesting part, that the screw attacks were also too much visually. I think that what they've done is they've done a lot of new animations, and there's a lot of different flips and stuff that happens now for the regular screw attacks, right? Like people land in different positions that they'd had in the past. The tornado screw, the one where they go upwards and come down, that one sounds like it's like a new thing, but it doesn't seem too crazy to me. I feel like the part I don't like about that is how we see Asuka's one where she's like double flipping through the air before coming down with that punch, or you see Jin has the same kind of thing where he's got like some double flip in the air thing like Lars style. I'm like, I don't like Tekken characters going like vertically, like super jumpy all of a sudden. Like that might be an old man thing for me too, but I don't know. That's just where I'm at with it. They keep talking about aggressive, but it didn't feel very aggressive or whatever because there was too much stuff going on and everything was frenetic. So instead of, I think their explanation of aggressive and his explanation of frenetic or use of frenetic here, I think they're kind of similar actually. So what he means by frenetic is probably what they mean by aggressive, you know? At least with Kazuya, it feels similar to 7. It's not a complete rehaul like 3 to 4 or 5 to 6. This is interesting. 3 to 4 was when it went from like walls were introduced, backdash was taken away, right? This is the biggest Tekken jump, right? Nowhere near that. 5 to 6, there was a balance system added. There was floor breaks and wall breaks added. So that was like a combo extension. But honestly, the game didn't feel that different to me between 5 and 6. The backdash was reduced compared to 5 DR, right? But 6's sidestep was still okay too. So this is an interesting one that he brings up this part, because I didn't feel like this was a big rehaul, like a complete rehaul, 5 and 6. This felt like an addition of Tekken, and I feel like 7 to 8 is kind of like 5 to 6. But it's actually kind of a mix of both of these, because Tekken 8 from 7, they have reduced backdash by a little bit, right? Certain characters have more of a reduction in the backdash if you look at like King or Kazuya, for example, right? But Laws is like a tiny bit less than Tekken 7. Sidesteps for sure are better. Like I have no doubt about that in my mind, right? Because Laws down for 2 tracking is very, very bad now. And also I've talked about this multiple times, but there are sidesteps now, especially when you're next to a wall, where like people start attacking and their bodies are going the wrong directions. That kind of like jank look of the game is how I've described it. Seems more like Tag 2 to me, which had a better sidestep as well, and I think that's all related. He says it's not just a 7.5 necessarily, but the base stuff in terms of movement, etc., are pretty similar to 7. This is yes and no, I think. I feel like it feels a lot like 7 if you come from 7 to 8, it feels very similar. It's not like going from 3 to 4. I think when people hear about the backdash being nerfed, they kind of worry that it's like Tekken 3 to Tekken 4. But it's really not. It's closer to 7. But certain characters, you're going to feel it much more. King is definitely one of those characters, and so is Kazuya. So it really is dependent on the character, I think, there. So here's with Kazuya with a bit of law, power crutch, and HP bars. All of Kazuya's basic screws from 7 are gone. Kazuya held sweep with a screw or bound fall wasn't as good as he thought it would be. Apparently added some recovery frames to Kazuya electric win Godfist because Lee's 3 was finding it easy to whiff punish. That's good to know. I didn't really try punishing whiffed electrics, but obviously it's too safe in the current game. Hellsweep and forward 3 are both super easy to avoid with sidewalk. This is true. Sidewalk and sidesteps in Tekken 8 are much more effective in general. Not all moves have chip damage. It's a subset of the move list. Yeah, I thought we knew that already. The only time this happens is when you're in heat. When you're in heat mode, then all of your moves have chip damage, right? But outside of heat mode, then only certain moves have chip damage, like Paul's Death Fist, for example. It's hard to tell how much HP has been recovered or how much chip guard damage you've taken visually. It's hard to tell how much HP has been recovered or how much chip guard damage you've taken visually. I had a similar kind of complaint about it, but it wasn't necessarily about this. Like, it could be a similar thought process here, right? But my thought process was, when you're at the end of a round and you look at your life bar and you see how much real life you have, how much recoverable life you have, it's hard to say, and your opponents, right? It's hard to say how much damage you need to do to kill them and how much damage you can take to survive. That part gets confusing at the end of the round. So I don't know that there's much way for them to change that. I think that's something that we will learn to understand with experience with the game. So we just need more time for that, I think. There's not much time to check the heat gauge and so on either, because oftentimes we just do moves that go straight into heat anyways. I feel like when you are playing the game for the first time, it's a lot to take in. It really is, right? So the second time you play it, you feel a little bit better. You start to understand the system a bit more. You know when to activate things. And I'll describe it this way. When a lot of people get their hands on Tekken 8 for the first time, they don't even activate heat, right? So it's like kind of a good habit to just raw activate. Do a heat burst. Now I'm in heat. Let's see what I can do. Especially in these closed alphas, we have limited time with the game. That's what I found the most effective, to start getting used to seeing the heat stuff. If you're actually trying to play the game like, oh, this is how I'm going to optimally use it, then you're not going to use it enough to understand it fully, I think. But what I found that's similar to this is there's not much time to check the heat gauge. When I'm playing with Law, I had a game plan last time when I was in France of thinking, when I'm in heat mode, I want to use heat to see if I can use Law's tools better while in heat. I want to use the parry better. I want to use counter back 1-2-2. I want to use the nunchucks, right? But what I found is that my heat ran out too fast. So that was the problem that I had with it, right? So overall, I would say that like, you'll get used to seeing the amount of time that it's going down, but like, there might not be enough time actually. So we'll see. Even when you do the heat cancel that run in, because he is not in a very advantageous situation. For example, versus characters like Law, they'll just block the hell sweep and parry the mids. Is this supposed to be aggressive? Is he asking for even more plus frames? I think this is what everyone's concern was, right? Wasn't everyone concerned that if everyone does a heat engage and you're very advantageous, that it's just going to be 50-50 game and you won't have options? This sounds like this is what you want to have in the game, that you want opponents on defense to have options, right? At least that's what I want. It's interesting here. He says, Law seems to be quite strong. His jab string, rock, paper, scissors, coupled with down by 3 low, makes his mix good. Goes in a little bit of a tangent on some changes to Law, including stuff like 1-2-3 counter nerf, but overall Law seems extremely good. I'm going to say this. I think Law is not good. I think Law is actually not good here. And I'll tell you why, right? Law's 1-2-3 here, the counter nerf that he's talking about here. If you guys don't know, Law's counter 1-2-3 does not knock down anymore. Law's 1-2-3 now, it just pushes back on counter hit, right? So he's lost that. His 1-2 forward 2 strings, right? That's all the same. But he lost the extended 1-1-1-1-1-1-1 string. So before, right, when you first heard about heat system, plus you heard about like the chip damage, you thought, okay, long jab strings and stuff would be good to chip opponents out. They took out Law's long jab strings. He's got 1-1-1, which is a counter hit tool, but it's punishable on block, right? So punishable on block is not good, obviously, right? 1-1-2 doesn't jail. You can still duck and kill him. 1-2-3 doesn't have a counter knockdown. So what are the strengths of these high jab strings? You know what I mean? Also, when I was telling you in France, I tried to take advantage of the heat system, right? I tried to spend the round, like I activate heat, I go in and just jab people down to see how much chip damage I could do to them. And it didn't do like anything. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go in like 4-3 DSS2, 1-1-1-2, you know, 1-1-2, forward 2, etc. And like the chip damage I was building up was like 10%. You know what I mean? It was like, I felt like it wasn't significant enough for the amount of risk I was taking to even put on that much jab pressure. Additionally, sidestep and sidewalk are good in this game. So jab strings like this are going to be trash if opponent sidewalks it. So I completely disagree with this, especially about this jab string RPS, right? Specifically, right? Down back 3 low, good, very good. Down back 3 low in Tekken 8 is more punishable than it is in Tekken 7. Still a good low, but more punishable than it was in Tekken 7. So I honestly think that Law is not as good as he is in Tekken 7. I think that Law is going to be good because of heat, because of his options when in heat. But I think his basic Law game plan has been severely nerfed from Tekken 7. Honestly, 3+4-4 is gone, right? 3+4-4 is not a launch anymore. You've lost 1-2-3 counter hit. 4-3 does not jail on block and is the only way he's going to get a counter hit launch off of it. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Down 4-2 doesn't track anymore, right? So what are the core Law moves that you're scared of? Down back 3, which is more punishable now? I don't know. Very, very interesting assessment here. Overall, Power Crush seems improved in that if you take a hit during the Power Crush, you get more pushback on block and more damage on hit than just throwing out the Power Crush raw. Wait, what? Power Crush seems improved in that if you take a hit during the Power Crush, you get more pushback on block. That's interesting. So if you are doing an attack, or if you're doing a Power Crush and somebody hits you, and then they block, you get more pushback? And you get more damage on hit than just throwing out the Power Crush raw? I don't understand this. Nee says something about Law's counter 4 still being a launcher. We'll see. I'll read that in a second, I guess. Kazuya's Wild Stand 1-2 is supposed to be one of the main screw moves now. And if you do it raw as a punish, it starts an early screw, so that's a huge combo damage nerf. Yeah, and they've done this across the board for a lot of characters. A lot of characters have nerfs like this, right? Which is why I'm also confused about the Law thing. Like, if you're playing Law, I think it's pretty obvious Law got a lot of nerfs there. Not all Magic 4s have died off, turned into Slide Blitz of guaranteed damage only. Law's Magic 4 can still go into full combo. These full combo counter Magic 4s seem limited to a few characters. This is wrong. Has Nee not been paying attention to Tekken 8? Basically, the countered 4s that still exist, you have to commit to a second hit that's a high that doesn't jail. So yes, if Law does 4-3, he can still get a full combo, but he has to commit to the second hit that's a high, right? So that's the difference here. Yeah, he still gets the combo if he does 4-3 or 4-3-4, but he cannot get a combo just if you just do Magic 4 by itself, you know? And if you guys have been watching me, even in Tekken 7, I've been talking about this while I've been playing, right? Whiffing a 4 by itself is still death. It's kind of like how Shaheen should be, like 4-1. I don't think it's a new build, guys. There's no way they gave him back to Magic 4. This change they've made has been across the board with everything so far. But Magic 4 already is very punishable. And now to get a combo on it, you have to commit to the second hit, which people have been ducking that since Tekken Tag 2, right? Ever since, because Tekken 6 to Tag 2 is when they took away the jailing property of 4-3. So people have been ducking that since that game. And now you have to commit to it. If you guys watch me playing Tekken 7 now, you'll see I'm already practicing for it by committing to it now, right? So I'm just trying to get used to it. But yeah, it's a problem. But yeah, this is incorrect as far as like getting it off just a 4 by itself. You need to commit. It's just an alpha test, but didn't get the impression that Kazuya was particularly strong. I completely disagree with that too. I think Kazuya is actually strong. It was harder for him. Took more time to go in heat because the heat-related moves were all more niche or slower moves. This is true. The thing about it, though, is as we play the game more, you're going to see different characters that have to use the heat system differently. So some characters, they're going to want to use it as a heat engage. Some characters, they're going to want to use it as a heat burst during a combo. Other characters are going to want to use it as a heat burst without a combo just to get into heat mode to start using the heat properties. So there's going to be different ways that different players have to utilize the heat for their character and for their own play style. So that is very, very different, right? So like, say for Kazuya here, he's saying it's hard for him to take more time to go into heat. Like, that is going to be player and character specific, basically. Let's see. On Paul. Paul, jumping fist move in the trailers. Doesn't mean it's seen to be up 4-2 since up 4-2 is separate. Is faster. And seems like a good move, but can be floated by jabs. Jumping fist move? Oh. What is that move? I forgot. I forgot about this move. I actually didn't try this move. It's just up 4-2? I forgot to try that move. It's the one that he showed in the first trailer. Yeah, I see. Goes into heat on hit as well, but can be floated by jabs. That makes sense. His right knee move in the trailer is down forward 4. It seems like it'll catch sidestep left 100% of the time, but not sidestep right. This is going to be important in Tekken 8 as well. Knowing which moves track which direction, because sidesteps seem to be bigger. So knowing this move tracks this way, this move tracks this way is going to be very important, because you won't be able to use just a homing attack for all characters, right? Because not all characters' homing attacks are fast. So this will be important. On counter, it does a knockdown that allows for the guaranteed Death Fist damage if it's on axis. If it's off axis, the Death Fist tends to whiff. So overall, down forward 4 is probably not a great move. Interesting. And I think in this game in general, a lot of stuff is going to be off axis. So this is actually a good analysis here. The whole Death Fist is 1+2, but it looks like it has less minus frames on block than regular Death Fist. This is a weird one. This whole Death Fist 1+2, by the way, is also his unblockable. So if you hold it all the way, this is Paul's current unblockable. So now they've basically made the unblockable allowed to be let go earlier. So that's why it's a different Death Fist, basically. The homing kick at the wall, seen in the trailer, is forward 4, but it's much slower than expected. Yeah, that homing kick is pretty sick. It's like the one where he does a little hop. Also has a homing high in forward 3 while still retaining a fast course go back 4. Paul no longer has Rage Art cancel. Yeah, and Paul, you can see here, Paul more or less is still Paul. Like, if you guys learn Paul now, you're going to transfer over to Tekken 8 very well. On Jack and Sidestepping, let's see. Stuff mainly about how his new stance bar from Gigas is really good, and it has a lot of stuff from Gigas. It's very true. Stance 1+2, for instance, is Gigas' command throw, where he tosses the opponent in the air and then shoulder tackles them. It also still wall splats like it did, so it's super duper good for Jack to have that. Is that a potential sign that Gigas doesn't make it in? That seems to be the case. That's what everyone's kind of leaning towards. Well, how's it going, Luffy? Boof. Power Crush is forward 1+2, and the old forward 1+2 wall bounce is now back 1+2. Jack's Power Crush is forward 1+2. Is forward 1+2 the hug, or is that forward 1+2? What the hell is forward 1+2 with Jack? I don't remember. The old forward 1+2 wall bounce is now back 1+2? Damn, I don't remember what this one is. Machine gun animation, down back 1-1-1-2 is completely different. Now it's a low, mid, and the last one could potentially be held. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know it could be held. Oh, the back 1+2, back 1+2. I see. That was the old one. So that one is now back 1+2, right? Wait, is it? Double shotgun thing? Wait, what about... Is forward 1+2 the that one? I don't know. I don't know which one's which now. I'm confused. Stance, left punch is a safe homing mid. Seems very good, yeah. Jack forward 1 seems extremely easy to avoid a sidestep left, as it should be. This was the nerf they've went kind of back and forth on in Tekken 7. If you guys remember, it used to be super good back when Saint was winning. Then they nerfed the crap out of it. And then they said, we'll undo the nerf just a little bit. So it's kind of in the middle now, whatever. And then he says here in bold, it feels like the sidesteps are larger now, which is nice and the type of movement that he wanted and is good for top players. But it's just a bit at odds with being aggressive. Potentially better than the down forward 1 and down 4 crouch kick fest we have in Tekken 7 because of the reduced sidestep. I see. Yeah. And I agree with that as well. I agree with that completely. I think that sidesteps are definitely better. I think that it is a bit at odds with aggressive, but I think like aggressive is their marketing thing, you know? Like, yeah, it's gonna look aggressive. If you're watching Tekken 8 as a spectator, it's going to look aggressive because of the heat dash system, right? The heat dash to the heat engages is gonna look aggressive, and I think that's what they want. Like when they say that, they don't mean like, oh, you know, all the toppest players are gonna play very, very aggressively. You know, this is like a general marketing term for like the average consumer. That's how I look at the aggressive terminology they've been throwing around. Sidestep seems similar to Tag 2. Yes, Kazuya mix just gets dodged all day by sidesteps and walks. Both Jack's forward 1 and down back 1 get dodged very easily by sidesteps without having to have precise timing like in 7. Yes, and it's not just these moves he's listing here. I'm telling you guys, like, other strings and stuff that people are doing, people are going to step them, and those characters are just going to go, like, the other way. They're just going to go right past them. It looks like, to me, it looks jank. It's like, oh, God, this character doesn't even know where they're attacking, you know? So, sidesteps are buffed, for sure. And because of it, I think the game looks worse, but it's what people have been asking for, so I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. On Jin, Jin's version of Heihachi down back too low has a much larger range than expected and also goes into combo and counter it. Currently a bit harder to react to because it's new. Yeah, I think that if you have very sharp reactions, this move will be reactable low. It's a very good low. You guys know how I feel about lows that are launchers on counter hit. Take them all out of the game, bro. Take them all out of the game or make them all launch punchable on block. You know, if it's not launch punchable on block and it's a low, it should not be a counter launcher. I don't know if I said that correctly or not, but you get the gist of it, right? I'll say it again slower. If you have a low that's a counter launcher and it's not launch punchable on block, that's cheap and should not be in the game. That's what I meant. Hey, I love low juggling punches, right? Yeah. Jin's down for 2 regular uppercut has a huge range and is safe. Can press down forward after to go into wave dash. That's pretty cheap. Also hard to dodge with sides as well, so you can just do down for 2 at long range plus the low all day. Sounds pretty good. Jin's Hell Sweep first hit will not knock down now even if it connects, so you have to commit to the follow-up. Yeah, this is a big change for him. A lot of the Jin players were really pissed about this. I laughed because I enjoyed it. He now has a follow-up to while standing 4/4 like Kazumi now, which makes it very strong. I did not know that. So it's like Devil Jin. Counter 4 does not knock down now. I mean, it shouldn't have. It's freaking homing attack, bro. Why are you going to have a homing attack counter 4 launcher? Knee forgot that Jin's Rage Art is mid now and ate a raw Rage Art by trying to duck the high. That's tight. A lot of people probably will make that same mistake. On Lars plus low parrying. So much change with Lars that it was hard to tell what is going on. I feel the exact same way. I hate playing against Lars. And in Tekken 8, Lars is like freaking everywhere, bro. He's like in and out. He's all over the place. Like, I honestly want him deleted. I think it's not too late, guys. I think we can start some kind of like, what was online petition things called? You know what I mean? We can still get this done, right? Like, it's still an alpha. He never made it to the beta, right? We can just say, hey, man, it's just an alpha character. The game. Remember when Lars existed back in the Tekken 8 alpha? Yeah. We don't need that character to make it to the beta. You know, release version, we definitely don't need to see this character, all right? Just take him out now. All the Tekken 6 characters, before you have another chance to push him to a next version of the game, just stop working on him now. It'll save you guys time and effort, you know? Jeez Louise. Let's see. Back whoops to homing tailspin mid is now safe on block. Wow. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Minor zoom in animation effect that makes it very obvious that you've just low parried something. Yeah, if you guys haven't heard about the low parry change, it's pretty sick. There's a minor zoom in animation and effect, and it's kind of like, it's almost like a pause, like a, and then low parry combo, you know? It's like, huh, low parry combo. It's like, it's a really interesting effect. It's very, it'll throw you off the first time you do a low parry. Put it that way. Miscellaneous. Because moves keep going to heat, it felt like you were supposed to just keep pressing buttons and try to hit the opponent, but not sure if that's aggressive necessarily. The heat system seems mainly designed to constantly force situations with heat. Yes and no. I can see this both ways. I think that this is one of those things where people are trying to figure out what you're supposed to do with it, you know? Once you run out of heat, the game feels pretty similar to 7 in terms of play style, sidestep jab, sidestep guard, etc. I totally agree with that. At the end of the day, it feels like Tekken still, you know? Which is why I said it's closer to 5 to 6 in terms of 7 to 8, because it's kind of like you have this thing and now they've added more to it. You know, they've added more to the combo system, more to do. And I feel the same way here. Rage Art is better now, both on block and on whiff. So Rage Art now seem like better moves to throw out some more. That's interesting. I never thought about and whiff. On block, they're obviously safer on block, but I didn't know that on whiff they were better. That's interesting. They said that aggressive was their slogan, but the characters have stuff like parries and so forth can still just utilize their defensive options. So, ... I think he's being very, what's the word? He's focusing too much, I think, on the aggressive terminology they've put out there, you know? You can dodge all of Kazuya's mix. He seems really butthurt about this. Didn't feel anything in terms of significant input lag. That's good news, coming from Knee especially. Stuff like the gauges are hard to see visually. There's too much stuff going on in the game for someone to look at. Recoverable health and all these gauges while still playing properly. I think that's something you're going to have to learn over time. This is just the thing, right? Like, when you have a game that has multiple bars to watch, you're going to have to take some time to get used to watching all of those things, especially for Tekken players, right? Because if you come from a 2D background, you kind of look at the gauges regularly. If you're a Tekken player, you're never looking at it, you know? And that's something you have to get used to. These visual calculations of how much chip damage he received and so on didn't really register into his mind. And yeah, I think that this is the big one. You know, chip damage, I think there's 2 reasons for this. Number one, chip damage doesn't do much. So it's like, you're not really looking at the chip, you're looking more at the recoverable health you have from combos that you've eaten. I think that's the bigger difference. Like the amount of chip you've taken is almost negligible. But if you're looking at like, oh, I ate this combo, but I got this much recoverable health out of it, that's when you're like, oh, okay, cool. Chip cannot KO, no. Another significant source of differences in character strength and balance may come from which moves are allowed to go into heat on hit, the heat engagers. This is going to be a huge thing. This is huge, actually. The moves that Kazuya can use to go into heat seem to not be very good, but Law can go in from his counter jab string or forward 1+2 Dragon Hammer. Wait, he can't do it off of forward 1+2 Dragon Hammer, right? I don't think he can. So during session while he's playing Kazuya, he kept thinking, my character's not going to heat very often. This is definitely new player syndrome for the bottom half of this here. Like when you're new to Tekken 8, this is very difficult to wrap your head around, right? Because you're not used to how you're supposed to how you're supposed to use the heat system. And you're definitely also not thinking about how the character should be used with the system. Like the more sessions you have with it, the more you get to wrap your head around it. I'm sure he'll get there. But this is definitely like your first time using it, first time playing the game. You're going to be like, I wasn't really blue a lot, you know? Basically here, this part though, strength and balance for the characters about which moves are allowed to go into heat on hit, the heat engagers, right? This is actually very important once you're in heat, right? Like what puts you into heat is not that important in my opinion, right? It will determine strength and balance a little bit, right? For example, we can use Jin here, regular Jin, right? He's got a 12-frame punish that goes into heat, right? Which gives him 2 heat dashes after that, okay? So imagine this. You do a hop kick. Jin punishes you. Boom, right? Now he's in heat, whether he takes the frame advantage or not, okay? You do another hop kick. He does the same 12-frame punish. Now it's a heat dash. He gets 2 of them now because he's used as a heat engager. And that heat dash is a launcher. So now he's got a 12-frame launcher every time while he's in heat still. You see how powerful that can be? That's pretty cheap. That's super cheap. And because he has it a heat engager, he gets 2 stocks of heat dash. If you're a character that does not have good heat engagers, then you have to use heat burst to go into heat. And when you do that, you only get 1 use of your heat dash. So let's say you have, I don't know, let's say Law. You have a 10-frame 1-on-1 counter hit jab string. That's a heat dash, right? Only on counter hit. How do you get into heat though? You have to heat burst, so now you can only do that 1 time instead of 2 times, like Jin could. You see the difference there? That's going to change the strength and balance of the character, right? Like for Law to go into heat, what are his options? He's got forward 3, which is -13 on block. Not a fast starter, but it's not a punisher, right? He's got 1-1-1 on counter hit, so right. So if he can do that, then great, right? He can counter it and get 2 chances at that, but it's not easy, and it's also, I think, -13 on block. I hope it's not -14, actually. I didn't test that. And then he's got, I think, back 1-2-2, right? So that's also super punishable, right? That's not something that you're going to hit on someone and be like, oh, cool, here I am, heat engage. And he had DSS forward 1. So parry, DSS forward 1, heat engage, that could be a good option for Law. But again, that's more of a defensive option, right? So it's going to be different for different characters. And I think like that heat system, once you're in there, which I haven't seen Need talk about yet, once you're in heat, the unique character properties of every character seem to be super duper important. I haven't used Kazuya enough, so I can't really like talk to that for that character. But for Law to be in heat, it's more about not the dash up part, but what you can do once you're in there. Like it's going to be about having the auto parry out of the DSS. It's going to be about having the nunchuck launcher. It's going to be about having parry launcher, which you wouldn't have outside of heat, you know? So that's going to be more important than just getting 1 single dash, essentially. Jack seems to have good heat moves off of his mix. Can use down back 1 to frustrate the opponent and then go in with heat engager mids. That seems good. And sometimes, you know, like, the interesting thing, too, about this, right? Like, it's kind of good and bad. Like, I was talking about the Jin example. Like, if Jin does 1+2 punch and heat engages, maybe he didn't want to use his heat then, right? But heat engages are going to activate the heat engage. You cannot say, I'm going to do this now, but not use the heat engage now, you know? That would be very different. One good thing is that since rage drives are gone, there are no random variables for the opponent to throw out when they go into rage. I'm going to read the rest of the paragraph, but right now I'm going to disagree with that. If you're down in life with no heat, and in rage, you're out of heat, and you have no rage drive, so all you can do is throw out a rage art. Since Nee really likes that sort of situation where he's fighting an opponent with limited options, he thought it was a good change. Yes and no, right? Because now you're dealing with this in the middle of the round. Like, this rage drive is there every round, right from the beginning. So this is a very weird assessment. It's like if they've used the heat already, right, and they're out of it, and now they're enraged without the heat, now I like this better. There's less options. Like, that's correct. But a lot of times, if you have not used your heat, right, and you get rage, you still have everything. And maybe then some. You might have more than you have in Tekken 7. You know, like, your comeback factor might be way higher than it was in Tekken 7 with just a rage drive and a rage art. So it's a different way of managing the resources, you know? It's hard to keep your heat as you go into rage since there are so many different heat engages, so you'll automatically tend to use up heat. Again, yes and no, it depends on the character. You know, like if you are Law, I can tell you it's kind of hard to, you know? It's kind of hard to accidentally do a heat engager. You can definitely play with Law without using a heat engager. So in rage or low HP, you'll usually have run out of heat. I think this is very, very dependent on character. And also with the way we're playing the game currently. Like, I think we'll learn to save the heat. Nee doesn't know that King always has heat. King is cheap. King is mad cheap. Kazuya countered while standing 1+2 knockdown and guaranteed OTG 4 damage is back. Things that could potentially make Kazuya great once people lab more in tech is found, but since the size is better, another Dark Age could be coming for Kazuya if he's released as is. Hell no, bro. Why does he want Kazuya to be buffer than he is? Kazuya is good. Trust, Kazuya is good. Still now, Kazuya was in a Bastion 6 BR because everything he had could be dodged and a lot of his moves didn't knock down. This was the point where he was called something along the lines of Crap Zuya in Korea back then. Yeah. I mean, dude, look, dude, I see what he's doing here, man. He's just trying to make Main Man put out a video talking about him to build up the likes on Nee. You see what I'm doing there? See, man? Look, hey, man. Main Man, I love you. Come on. You know? What do you want me to do here? He's playing the game, yeah. I mean, look, I agree with him that Kazuya's like basic game plan of like Hell Sweep, Electric, could be Sidewalk left, and it's going to be better in a game that has better sidesteps, right? It's going to happen. But this character is mad cheap, bro. He's mad cheap. That stomp move, where is he talking about the stomp move? You know? Have you tried stepping a stomp move? There's a lot of stuff that I think will be good for this character still. Like, you're looking at only one aspect of the character that's existed forever, right? And I think this version of Tekken, I think they're really trying to put more into every character. So it's going to be very different. The number of buttons and combinations you can configure have been significantly expanded the settings, especially since they included in 3-button combinations as well. That's interesting. So now you can have a 1-button taunt. You can even map taunt to a single button. Yes. Yo, he's going to become a Brian player again, bro. This is the arc I wanted. See? Nee, forget about Kazuya, bro. Namco doesn't want you to play Kazuya. They want you to play Brian. Right here, look at this. You can even map taunt to a single button. They put that in there for you, Nee. Right? They don't want you downplaying Kazuya. They want you playing Brian. Consequently, this also means that sticks with more buttons will be better. It also depends on how much tournament TWT rules will let players get away with. That's an interesting assessment. The rest of it is teasing Sodan because it was his birthday plus random questions from the viewers. All right, sweet. So there you have it. That's all of Nee's thoughts on Tekken 8 so far after his first playtest of the game. Trust me when I tell you guys this, like, everyone's first time with Tekken 8, it's going to be so different than the second playtime. Because the second playtest you have, where you have that first experience and you have muscle memory going into it, is like so crucial. Because now you're like, oh, okay, I know how the heat system activates. I know what I got to try to do and not do. Just for the heat system itself, right? Because outside of that, we all know how to play Tekken, right? But the heat system part of it is so crucial to Tekken 8. And I think that it's going to take a while. I think you need multiple days. And, you know, my day, I've played, like, I think 4 days so far. I think maybe more, because I played 2 or 3 days at Evo Japan, right? So I played 5 days, I think. And the 5th day, like, even though I remembered it from before, it was like a month, right? Because it was Japan or France. And so it'd been like a month since Evo Japan. And I had forgotten some of the stuff. And I was like, wait, what am I supposed to do here? And I forgot some of the combos already, right? So I can tell you that even when you have multiple playtests, it's hard to remember everything that's new in this game. This game is super fun. And I think that's like the big general thing, right? Like, everyone that I've seen try out this game, it starts off like this. It was fun. It's test alpha version, so you can't take anything too seriously, right? cool aspects to it, right? And I think everyone who plays their own character, like some people don't have their characters in the game yet, but everyone who plays their own character comes out feeling like, damn, that was dope. Like, I came out feeling that Law is worse, but he's so fun to play. If you guys remember my first video, I said, in Tekken 8, I really want to learn a new character and like kind of move away from Law since I've used it for like 20 plus years. But then I played Tekken 8 and I was like, gosh, dang it, they made this character so fun. You know, even though they like simplified DSS and everything, right? And they took away some of my fun from execution, it's so fun to play this stupid character in this new game. So they've done a great job. So there you have it. That's Knee's thoughts of Tekken 8. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Am I right? Is Knee right? Who's right? You let me know. Peace.